Before we proceed, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting you today and pay my respects to elders past and present. As I kindly said, my name is Noel. I'm of Rwandan descent and the current chairperson of AAAC. First of all, allow me to welcome our guest speaker, Lovemore Ndou. Lovemore, it's my pleasure to welcome you, and of course, on behalf of AAAC, what a great honor to have someone like you. So today's agenda, of course, it's to discuss and also to learn from someone like you how we can, how can AAAC can do what we call like advocacy. Advocacy, it's a broad, it's a big name. It's a big name in a different context. As I say, before we go into that area, of course, I would like to introduce many of us. We know each other, but I also want to say thank you for Karen, for organizing this. So we had for this meeting to happen, was because of Karen. And Karen, I know you how busy you are, but I can say a big thank you for you because you always remember who AAAC, and it's really good to know that someone like you always remembers us. And of course, people you see here are Lovemore. They are all part of the AAAC family. Without going far, I want to hand over to everyone to introduce themselves. So I start with Gary from my screen.
Well, my name's Gary. I'm the community development worker at START, and I was approached by Karen for today, and I support AAAC as part of my role at START. Pass it on.
Okay, Karen.
It's good to meet everybody that I haven't met before today. I'm Karen Collier and I'm the Communications Officer at START.
Yusuf? You're on mute.
Just saying hi, Karen. Pleased to meet you.
Thank you. Yusuf is our treasurer. Kirsten?
Hi everyone, I'm Kirsten Keith. I'm advisor to the AAAC. It's great to be here today. Thank you.
Rick Farrow.
Hi, my name is Rick Farrow. I'm in charge of communications and media in AAAC, but I was formerly an advisor for the Rwandan community.
Okay, Daniel.
Daniel's having internet connections, Noel. Problems.
Yes, had to.
Maybe go on to somebody else.
Let me see. Oh, yeah, I can see. Okay, let's proceed. Then maybe he will join us. Thank you for your introductions. As the purpose of the session.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Daniel. Welcome back. Technology.
Lovemore's lost his connection. He just said to.
He's back. Good. Yeah, Daniel's also trying to reconnect. Maybe we can proceed by Lovemore. The purpose of our session today is to first of all is to to get to know each other and discuss potential future collaborations, and the second point will be, of course, to continue this discussion with AAAC and how we can properly undertake advocacy, especially when it comes to issues that affect many African Australians here in Australia. So I'd love to also introduce Akano. Welcome.
Thank you.
You want to introduce yourself?
What did you say?
You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Akano. Yeah, I'm sure I met some of you yesterday. And I think I've seen you before, Kirsten. Yeah, look, it's a pleasure to be, part of this training, and I'm excited for today.
Thank you. So I want to hand over to Karen, and then Karen can introduce Longley, our guest speaker today, who is Lovemore. I was talking to my son, he's 10, saying, today we meet with someone called Lovemore. Hey, Lovemore, yes. So he went on Google, and then he searched you, and then he said, Daddy, look at who he is. So it's something, to...
So I met Lovemore recently at a photo exhibit called We Bleed the Same. A friend and colleague of mine at SBS, former SBS, Liz Deep Jones, and that was just before lockdown. So Lovemore, did a fantastic speech, and he was part of the exhibit. I can send that to some of you after the session today. And I think Mandela Day was approaching, and we had a bit of a chat, and had since talked to Lovemore about what we do at Starts and also the AAAC. And I was very fortunate to receive a copy of Lovemore's new book, Tough Love. So I encourage you to have a read in lockdown. I know that Lovemore doesn't really require an introduction to many of you. I think you know about his journey, but Lovemore Ndou, he hails from a small town in Messina in Limpopo, and he rose to prominence as a 3-time world boxing champion in 2 weight divisions. He was recently inducted into the Australian Boxing Hall of Fame. Lovemore holds 6 university degrees, and I believe you're on your 7th, Lovemore, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
And you run a successful practice, Lovemore Lawyers, in Rockdale in Sydney, specialising in the areas of family law, criminal law, and pro bono work, I believe, especially in the Indigenous community. Your autobiography, Tough Love, the amazing true story of a boxing world champion turned lawyer, was published earlier this year, and I believe 2 weeks ago in South Africa. So congratulations, Lovemore, on the release of your book. And it's an honour to meet you and look forward to hearing more about your journey today.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. Look, you've already done the big introduction. I don't think I can add anything to that. Like you said, my journey started back in South Africa. I was born, during the apartheid era. I'm sure most of you will be aware of what I'm talking about when I refer to the apartheid era in South Africa. It's a time when there was a lot of racial discrimination, in particular towards Black people. So growing up in South Africa, I witnessed a lot of atrocities, committed against my friends and family members, including myself. I come from a very, very poor family. I didn't start school until I was 9 years of age. And part of it had to do with the political situation back then. In fact, I had to travel to Zimbabwe, which is the neighboring state to South Africa, to start school. And when I got there as well, things were not smooth in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe was also going through a transition. The Blacks had just taken over from Ian Smith's government, but there was still, Black on Black violence between, the Black political parties. So again, when I was over there, I had to witness a lot of atrocities as well, people getting killed. But some of you would know the history of Robert Mugabe. Robert had to do anything to stay in power, and if it meant killing people, he had to do that. So I had to witness that. But eventually we moved back to South Africa, and I continued my schooling there. The situation wasn't better in South Africa, because at the time, it's like the South African government then was concerned about what was happening in neighboring countries like Zimbabwe. So the fact that the blacks had just taken over their country next door, kept the South African government really, really worried, and they were doing anything, to make sure, they keep black people in line. So there was a lot of political violence going on, and we were protesting and all that, but a lot of people died. In fact, when I recall when I was about 13 years old, a friend of mine got shot during a protest, and he died in my arms. So I was actually very, very angry, when I was coming up as a young boy, and part of it had to do with what I witnessed, growing up in South Africa, with the violence and the poverty. But I always knew that, my ticket out of, Messina, the little town where I was born, or my ticket out of poverty, will be through sports. So I always tried different, types of sports. I was really good at soccer, but the problem was, because of my anger issues, I wouldn't last long in the field, because, each time I played and somebody played rough, I would turn around and knock them out, and then I'll get red carded, and it kept repeating and repeating. And, I was so angry to a point that, often people would see me chasing another player instead of chasing the ball, and I recall there was another incident, we were playing one of the local schools, and this kid played rough, and I turned around and knocked him out. They got a security guard to escort me out of the field. And I recall while he was escorting me, one of the things he said to me, he said, "Kid, I don't think soccer is for you, because, you never last long in the field. I think you should come try out boxing." So I thought, oh, I got nothing to lose. So the next day I went to a boxing gym. It turned out this guy was a trainer after himself. So, the first thing he said to me, he said, "Look, we need to work on your anger." I thought, nah, why? This is boxing, this is fighting. You need to be angry to fight. But I was wrong, because boxing, you look at boxing is scientific. Boxing is like playing a game of chess. You need to have a very clear mind, to participate in boxing, or otherwise you're gonna get knocked out. I had to learn the hard way. He had to put me in sparring with bigger boys, and he kept telling me, "Lovemore, you gotta stay calm, you gotta stay calm." And I realized that the more angry I got, the more I was getting beat up. So eventually I started listening, and I realized that when I calmed down, I was doing well, I was performing well, I would counterpunch and I would look good. So I started listening, but that didn't just change me as a boxer, it also changed me as a person. It turned me into this calm and collected person that I am today. So I'm very, very grateful to boxing when it comes to that. Now, when I look at it too, growing up in South Africa, at a time where, pretty much every teenager walked around with a gun or a knife, had I not changed my attitude, I'll probably be dead today or locked up in jail. And so I'm very grateful to boxing. But look, eventually, I pursued my boxing career. I did well. And look, there was an incident that occurred when I was about 16 that really changed my life. Like I explained earlier, when I grew up in apartheid South Africa, where there was a lot of racial, segregation. So it so happened that, there was a supermarket where we used to go buy our, family groceries and all that. And the owner was a white guy, and his daughter used to assist sometimes in the supermarket. She was there sometimes when I went shopping. So she took a liking on me. Nothing ever happened between us. But everybody started talking about it, and the staff were aware of what was going on, and eventually I was just worried that if your father finds out, something might happen. And eventually the father did find out, and I recall one night, the police came and knocked down our little shack, and they dragged me to the police station. I get accused, of sexual assault in the girl. So they wanted to, hit me up with some unsubstantiated allegations that I had sexual assaulted her. The good thing is the girl said, look, she was willing to go public and tell everybody that it never happened. So they knew they had a weaker case, a very weak case against me. But what they eventually did was they just decided to lock me up. For 90 days, I was locked up at a correctional center in a place called Litrihat. So I was locked up for 90 days with no charge. At the time, they had a law where they could pretty much lock up people, without a charge, and the law was getting abused. So sorry. Alia, I'm busy. I'm so sorry.
No need for apologies. We're used to this at AAAC.
That's that's the disadvantage of working from home. At the time, they had a law where they could pretty much lock up any political, activists without a charge. But the law was getting abused and, used against anyone they didn't like. So I happened to be a victim, only because a white girl took a liking on me. After the 90 days there, I was then dragged, to the local court, and then I was charged for theft. And apparently I had stolen something from the supermarket. So it went from, allegations of sexual assault to theft. Apparently I'd stolen lollies worth about, 9 rands. So 9 rands, you're talking about, back then it was probably something like, I don't know, maybe 25 cents or something like that. But then I get sentenced to 6 cards. I get convicted and get sentenced to 6 cards, which meant that the police had to beat me up and draw blood. So they took me to the police station. They started, punishing me, but they kept referring to me as a kafir. Now, a kafir is a very derogatory term that they used back in South Africa then. So I got really, really upset when they kept doing that. And eventually I just told them to F off. So that was the biggest mistake I made, because it almost cost me my life. They just started kicking me, beating me up. They chipped my front tooth. They broke my left arm. I was left with bruised ribs. The worst thing they did was, they set a German Shepherd dog on me. And it almost beat off my eye. People often see this scar here on my right eye, and people think it's from boxing. Now, this is from a dog bite, so it almost took off my eye. Now, I recall, when I was recovering in hospital, and one thing they did, it's like they almost, my boxing career almost ended before it even started, because of the problem I had with my arm. But I recall when I was recovering in hospital, one of the things that really, really crossed my mind, I thought, this was unfair. This was not justice, and I thought to myself, no, I need to do something about this, And that day, I told myself, that someday I was either going to become a lawyer or a political activist. So I started taking my studies very seriously. I would read any book, that I could lay my hand on, and look where I am today. Today I am a lawyer, and I'm grateful, look, and I always tell people sometimes setbacks in life, prepares, for some success in the future. What happened to me prepared me for what I am today, for what I'm doing today. It's not the best thing that happened to me, but in a way, it turned me into this great person that I am today, which is almost the message that I always, whenever I talk to children or the youth out there, I always tell them that every setback in life, always prepare you, for success in the future. and just because, you had a bad start in life, doesn't necessarily mean, your world ends there. If you're full of courage, determination, and your dream will always come true. You can always make a change in your life. And which is one of the reasons why I wrote this book. When I wrote the book, the audience I had in my mind, pretty much the audience was the youth, the young up and coming, and pretty much, people that come from refugee backgrounds, and the message being, just because you had a bad start in life, don't give up, because only you can make those changes in your life. All you need is, just being, you just need an opportunity. If you're given an equal opportunity, nothing will stop you. And I've proven it, by leaving South Africa, and coming to Australia, where I was provided with all these opportunities. And I was able to, pursue my boxing career, become a world champion. I was able to study hard. I'm probably, without bragging, I'm probably the most educated, athlete that ever lived out there. I don't think there's ever been any other boxer that's, had, any academic achievements, similar academic achievements. So it all comes down to hard work and dedication. Look, I could go on and go on, but that's pretty much, in a nutshell, a little story about Lovemore.
Lovemore, can I ask as well, I believe that you're interested in going into politics, and I probably haven't reached that part in your book yet, but that's the path that you're on now. So you're in a political degree, political science masters at the moment?
That's correct, yes. So my future aspirations are to go back to South Africa and get into politics. Look, I'm really concerned about my country of birth. There's a lot of, it's like the country is slowly, descending into anarchy. It's concerning that, the country has been in a democratic state since 1994. It's been 27 years now, and 27 years later, you still have people living in shacks. You still have people having to rely, on the bucket sanitation system. You got an issue, you got a water crisis, people don't have jobs, you got a problem, with corruption. So it really concerns me. I feel the current, governing, the current party that's, in power, the African National Congress, has failed people, since Mandela stepped down, from office. There's a lot of corruption, and the biggest problem is, and now this is what I always tell people, about Africa. Africans make great liberators, they make great freedom fighters, but when it comes to running the country, often they run it down the drain. If you look at countries like Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe was that country was rich, but look what's happened. Mugabe is just running it down the drain, and part of it is it's got to do with corruption. And I think, and also, the fact that, often we put people that are not qualified, we give them jobs that are not qualified for, and they just end up destroying the country. And I always tell people, that the worst mistake that was ever made in South Africa, was the introduction of, the Black economic empowerment. The idea behind it, or the intention behind it, was great. It was to try and level things and assist, Blacks, when it comes to the economy. But what happened at the end is that only those in power benefited from it. So it allowed them to test a lifestyle that they were not used to, without even having to work hard for it. Now, for them to maintain that lifestyle, they had to start stealing from the public. And that's where corruption started. You look at, I don't know how familiar you are with the South African history, but, You look at, former President Jacob Zuma, he almost destroyed the country. Not so long ago, he was arrested for defying some court orders because he would, refuse to attend to court to answer to questions about, corruption. So he ended up getting sentenced to 15 months imprisonment, for defying a court order. And that, his supporters, started, they started this trouble. They started protesting for, about his arrest. And then the protesting just led into chaos and it led into looting, and which is pretty much, the last thing that the country needed at a time like this, when the country's economy is already suffering through, the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you look at it, and people often ask me, what do I make of it? When I look at it, I don't think the whole thing, the whole thing has got nothing to do with the Free Zuma campaign. It all had to do with people being frustrated. People are frustrated by government that has failed them for 27 years. Like I already mentioned, if you look at the situation now, in fact, if you look at it, the South African economy was better, even better during, apartheid. The economy is going down the drain at the moment. So we need new leaders. We need educated people who are there for the right reasons. And I always tell people the only reason the African National Congress, is still in power is because it is the only party, that allowed people to taste freedom, when it took over from the former racist regime. And the other reason being that there's no other better party there to vote for. So I believe what South Africa really needs at the moment is, they need a new party that will stand for the people, a new party that will provide, opportunities, for people. Like I said, and I'm a good example of that. African people are hardworking people in general. When we're given the opportunity to work, we excel. And I'm a good example of that. I moved away from South Africa because I didn't have an opportunity. I wasn't given the proper opportunity. I had to come to Australia to be given that opportunity, and I took advantage of it. And look where I am today. So yes, I do intend to go back to South Africa and get into politics, and I intend to help the youth with education. They always talk about free education, but they don't really provide free education. So if I get into politics in South Africa, I would make sure that when you talk about free education, you really mean free education. And one other thing that I'll be fighting will be corruption. I'll be fighting crime. There's a big problem with domestic violence in South Africa. That's another issue that needs to be solved as well. So yes, to answer your question, yes, I do intend to go back to South Africa and get into politics.
I think now the floor's open, so if people want to talk about
Lovemore, I've got maybe two questions. One is, how has telling your story helped to make a change, not only to to yourself, also to other people who may have went through, who may have, or maybe gone through the same way as yours? The second question, we also want to hear from you, your views on racism in Australia. Like, for example, when we hear what people from media perspective call African gangs, and of course, we can't also forget about it, discussing, COVID impact among ethnic communities, especially people coming from war zone, or people who may have experienced, the discrimination or other racism. For example, like yourself. So you experienced racism back where you were born, and then you also experience the same, same thing in your new home, like Australia.
Look, okay, first I'll respond to your first question as to what have I done, how am I contributing to assisting the community? I think Karen did mention that when she introduced me. One of the things that I do is I provide pro bono services, in particular to Indigenous people. Why? Because, I look at Indigenous people, I see a lot of similarities to them and my people back, my upbringing in South Africa and my people in South Africa, I see a lot of similarities to Indigenous people. If you look at it, there's the incarceration rate of Indigenous people is pretty high in Australia. So what I do is, I provide pro bono services, to Indigenous people to assist them. For me, that's a way of giving back to the community. But apart from that, I'm also involved, with a lot of youth services, where often, I appear and, give a speech to try and assist them, motivate children, I share my life story with them. And I also, look, one of the things, when I was growing up, I had a choice. I could have chosen to go the wrong way and commit crimes. I could have chosen to be a member of the gang. There were a lot of gangs going up in South Africa. But I made a choice myself, that, I was going to follow a different path, and look where I am today. So I share that story with a lot of, Australian people. But apart from that, as a practicing solicitor, sometimes I work with a lot of people from, the refugee background. There's a lot of people that came from, war-torn countries, and they come here and they end up getting into trouble, with the law, and then I end up as, representing them. But one of the things that I do with them, and this is when, I was interested, when Karen started talking to me, when she mentioned that, she worked for Stats, because I became aware of Stats during, my job as a lawyer. I would, because I've had a lot of clients, that I've referred to Stats. Most of them have been victim of violence where they come from, and they have a lot of trauma, to deal with. So, and I found sometimes I would send them to Stats, and they would, get some reports from them, to assist, them in court. And I've had cases where some teenagers have pretty much turned their lives around. So instead of just being a lawyer to them, I end up being, like a parent to them as well, because I tell them, this is what you need to do, try and do this to change your life around. And I've had cases where, some kids, have turned their lives around. I had one particular kid, and that he did his time in jail, came out, changed his life around, went to TAFE, got qualified as a plumber. Now he's doing really good. So in a way, that's a way of giving back to the community, even through boxing, as a boxer, I go to a lot of boxing gyms and I talk to kids and I try and talk to them about, finding different ways, to change their lifestyles. And I give them an example of how boxing changed my life. And I find when kids are involved in sports, it keeps them, occupied, it keeps them active, keeps them away from, committing crime. So, in particular, and one of the things, and then Karen and I were discussing, it's, at a time like this where, during this pandemic where there's a lot of lockdowns, and I think one thing that could really, really assist people, it's, physical activities, like exercise, so once the lockdowns are over, I'll be very, very keen, to assist, talk to some kids and assist them, with training, and that would just assist them, mentally. It's good for everybody. It's good for them as well, and it keeps them out of trouble. Now, your second question about racism. Look, and this is what I always tell people. People often say to me, apartheid, is a former problem of South Africa. And I disagree, because, as far as I'm concerned, apartheid is a problem of the whole world. Racial discrimination is a problem of the whole world, including Australia. Just because it's not written into legislation doesn't mean it doesn't exist. As far as I'm concerned, if you taught someone from excelling because of their age, their gender, or their sexual preference, that's a form of apartheid. That's a form of discrimination. If you say, I'm not going to work with that guy because he's Asian, or he's African, or he's Caucasian, but that guy has never done anything wrong by you, that's a form of apartheid. I'm not going to work with that guy because he's gay, or she's a lesbian, but she's never done anything wrong by you. That's a form of racial discrimination. So racial discrimination is a problem of the whole world. We just have to learn, to work, and fight, continue fighting, against racism, and educate people, and we can't. This is where often people ask me, do I think Australia is a racist country? No, I don't think so. But I think there are some bad apples out there, like every other country. Okay, I'll give you an example. I've encountered some situations, that amount to racial profiling here in Australia, but I wouldn't go as far as saying Australia is a racist country. For example, when I first became a lawyer, I recall there were times where I would walk into the courtroom, I'll go sit at the bench, and the court officer will come, walk up to me and ask me, are you a lawyer? Because this is for lawyers. You should be sitting there. Okay. She won't ask all the other Caucasian people if they're lawyers. So that's a form of racial profiling. And some will just come up and say to me, no, this is reserved for lawyers. Go sit over there. Okay. Just because I'm black, you've already assumed that I'm not a lawyer. I can't be a lawyer. Okay. There was another incident where I dated a Caucasian girl. I recall one day we were taking a walk, and we stopped at the traffic lights. Next to the traffic lights there was a police station, and then while we were waiting there for the traffic lights to turn green, the car pulls up. These two Caucasian guys are in the car. Roll down the window. One of them says to us, "Hey, Tupac." Okay, so we ignored them. "Hey, Tupac." Okay, we ignored the "Hey, Tupac and your B." Okay, so we ignored them. Okay, and then one of them decided, well, he's gonna just take it a step up, and then it turns out he says, "Hey, Tupac's B. You like big black C." Okay, so that pissed me off. So I turned around and said to him, "Yeah, so does your mother. You should ask her." So they got out of the car to come fight me. Okay, so we end up in the street, we're there. My girlfriend runs to the police station. She tells the police, there are two guys out there attacking my boyfriend. Okay, about 6 cops come out running. Now, who do the cops grab? Okay, there are 2 guys there standing there, and there's one black guy, but they grab me and throw me on the ground. Okay, and those 2 white guys are just standing there and waiting. And it wasn't up until my girlfriend said, no, those 2 idiots are attacking my boyfriend. That's when they let go. So that's a form of racial profiling. Just because I was black, they thought, I was the perpetrator. Okay, so in a way, it really pissed me off. I felt like I was back in South Africa. But again, would I draw a conclusion? Because of those 2, those idiot cops, who treated me the way, or who made, a wrong assumption about me. Should I think the whole country is racist? No, I don't think so. But there are some bad apples out there. Like I said, racism is a disease that we need to fight. We have to continue fighting. We have to continue educating people about it. But I think we are in a very, very lucky country. and when I look at it, this country provided me with more opportunities that my own country of birth wouldn't provide, but, here and there, you are always going to run into someone, who's misinformed, about other people. But we can't draw a conclusion that, it's a racist country. Look, I'm very outspoken. I'm always out there during, the Black Lives Movement. I've been part of it. There is, there is some segregation going on out there, but we can't conclude that the whole country is racist. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you. Any remarks on COVID? Is COVID going on here? People are taking it different angles, especially when it comes to migrants, refugees. They see this, for example, as another pandemic on the top of what they went through. Look, advice.
Look, obviously, I'm not a medical expert, so I can't give advice, or, on what should be done. But, just from listening to the medical experts there and the politicians, I can tell that, nobody really knows what's going on. Okay. And it seems like, the politicians and medical experts, all they're doing is just continue to sell us hope, optimism. Look, the pandemic is here. We just have to learn to live with it. Okay. This is not the first time that the world, has come up against a pandemic. I mean, you look back in the day when they had the Spanish flu, people panicked, and I'm not surprised people are panicking right now. But, I think we just have to learn to live with it, and do the right thing. If it means having to go into a lockdown now and then, that's what we gotta do. We just have to be a bit more careful. If we need to get vaccinated, let's get vaccinated. In fact, I had my second Pfizer vaccination 2 days ago, yeah, and make sure I like it that that I managed to, because for the last 2 days I've been very, very sick, from which is part of the side effects of the Pfizer. I've been very, very lethargic for the last 2 days, but I'm starting to feel better now. But look, these are the steps we gotta take. People need to realize that any vaccine, like any other medication out there or any other medical procedure, comes with some inherent risks and benefits. So just because there are some side effects that come with it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad for us. I think we should get vaccinated. And I think that's the only way we might be able to control, the spread of the virus. Look, like I said, I can't give advice on that. I'm not a medical expert, but I can only share my opinion based on what I hear and what I see. But I encourage people to do the right thing. Listen, if you're told to stay indoors, stay indoors. Like right now we've got this Delta, a variant that's spreading like there's no tomorrow, and I think it's about time people start, listening, and stay home. If if you can work from home, and sometimes you're putting your own family at risk, like for example, there are people that have grandparents there who are elderly and have some other underlying conditions, and they're the ones that are more vulnerable to it. You bring the virus home, they catch it, next thing they're dead. So we gotta be very, very careful.
Yeah. Thank you, Lovemore. Daniel, do you want to talk about the writing project, or ask him about the writing project that AAAC is doing? And have you heard of this yet, Lovemore?
The writing project.
So it is the sorry, Lovemore. My internet has been really better, so in and out. But finally, seems like it's working now. Thank you, everyone.
I like the portrait. I've got the same portrait in my bedroom. the portrait of the African lady.
Which one is that?
Okay, scroll down. When you put, first thing I saw, there was a nice portrait of this African lady with
this one here?
This one, yeah, that one, yes.
Oh,
I've got that. Yeah, it's beautiful.
This is one of the projects we completed. We still doing similar to this. As Daniel, is the internet working? So this project actually, it's a joint project being run by Westward. So Westward is a writing company. So what they are doing, they actually they've been running this program to help people from African background who have stories, lived experience like ours, like yours, to tell their stories, but from their own, without telling your story via someone. So it's very good program, and been going on for now. We are now in the second year, and we go contract. No, we go project for 3 years. When we were talking about your stories, actually, reminded me that this program, it's all about, like, for example, like your experience, Lovemore, or our experiences. And we still have 2 more years. Let me know if you love maybe one day to speak to a group. Now they're running this group via Zoom because of COVID. But your story, honestly, will inspire many of the participants. So I want to share with you one of the, so this is the one now being run right now. So it's online due to COVID.
Okay, I think that's a great idea. It's funny you mentioned that. Often, people ask me, about my book and all that, and I always tell people, look, we all have a story to tell, but not everyone gets an opportunity to tell their story. So I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm one of the fortunate ones who've had the ability to be able to write my book and share my story out there. And I'm sure there are some other stories there that are, people have experienced things way worse than what I have, but they don't have the ability to share their stories, and they've prevailed, despite all this, whatever they faced in life. So this is a great platform, if you allow, to allow people to share their stories. And I think it's always great if you share your stories with other people. And then you make other people realize that, makes you realize that, if sometimes you think, you're doing it tougher or you had it tougher, but there's always someone out there who has, that you are where you are today.
Yeah.
So I support that.
Thank you. So it's just designed to support and develop and promote, of course, African Australian writers as well. And so it doesn't have to be for people who have, let's say, like writing experience. So even people who have stories like yours, it's very important. I will send you the link. You read, like the one, the first project. We had more than 37 participants, from more than 27 countries in Africa, talking different stories. And I like yours. So that's an example. So it's also another thing, because many community members here, especially when it comes to migrants, refugees, people want to tell our own story, and in the way they want. While this project encourages you to write your own story, the way you lived, your own experience, the way you lived it, and share with the public. That's and we think from AAAC. That's also the way of educating the people here who may not know about Africa, for example, or African cultures.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, I think it's a great project, and I support it. And if there's any way I could assist, feel free to reach out. Look, and you're right. We people have, people from different backgrounds. People experience different things. You got people coming from, Arab countries. They've experienced a lot, and sometimes, we're grateful. We've got, programs like Stats, because this they assist people. I often say, sometimes I blame it on the government. I feel the government should be doing a bit more. You see people, young people coming and committing crimes. I always think, sometimes as part of, if people come into the country as refugees, I think what should be done is, as part of releasing, or them to the community, you should also make it, mandatory that they attend to counseling, with programs, like Starts, because I can see that helps a lot of people. It helps them change their lifestyles. Now, if you've got this program where people are writing and telling their stories, it gives people a better understanding of what someone has went through, and puts you in a better position to assist them. Like programs like Stars, at least they will know what they're dealing with. They've read about this person, and they would know what to focus on to assist these people. Whatever traumas they're facing or they have faced.
Maybe my last question to you, Lovemore. You talked about the potential activities you want to undertake, let's say post-COVID, involving your kids into physical exercise. So how you plan to do it? Also, if there's any way that maybe AAAC can join in raising awareness, because this is a very great idea, because as you know, many kids, we are all locked in the house, we can't get out. So when they say restrictions have been lifted, so we had to not only our kids, also ourselves, to be involved in the physical activities. So now I would like to hear from you how you plan to do it.
Look, I'm already involved, with some youth centers. For example, in Dulwich Hill, I work with Father Dave. Sometimes, we assist the youth and through boxing and all that. I often travel around the country, to Queensland as well, and work with, children. But I was talking to Karen, and I said to Karen, look, if I'm willing to assist in any way. So if there are any particular groups there that, Karen, or any of you guys want me to target or to help, just feel free to contact me, and then I would assist in any way I can. And I'm also involved, with police boys clubs, because I train there sometimes, and I end up, if there are children there, I end up, coaching them, talking to them, giving them any advice that I can.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes, Daniel.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Lovemore. Just a couple of things. One is that I think I'm going to speak for AAAC, saying that we'll be happy to send you a hard copy of this book if we can get your address. I think we've got a hard copy of Printed Compiled book, so we can get that across to you. And the other one is, I was just thinking about, so I work in the community sector, community worker. And one of the things that we do is a mentoring program for young people, boys and girls. Currently, we've got up to 64 young people that we do work with. I thought it would be wonderful at some point if we can get an opportunity for you to share your story online. Currently, it's happening online on Fridays between 12 and 1. It would be wonderful if you can share your story, because those guys are at the age where they're trying to really find out what to do in life. Stories that will inspire them. So I think your story is very powerful. It would be really wonderful if you have time down the track on Fridays between 12 and 1 to share your story. So thank you, Lovemore, for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, look, I'm willing to assist on anything to do with the youth. I'm more than happy to assist. So as long as you let me know in advance, because I'm so busy as well because of my profession as well. because of my job as well. So if you let me in advance so we can plan it in advance, yeah, no, there should be no issues.
Thank you. And don't forget your address as well, so we can send it to you.
You're in contact with Karen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can get it off Karen.
Excellent.
I'll give it to Karen, yeah, and she will forward it to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Or if you Google if you Google Lovemore lawyers, you can send it to my office.
Yeah, we've got the address now. Yeah. Cool. Oh, come on, questions. Oh, this is very impressive. That's right.
Just actually, can I ask one more question? I don't know, how much time do we have? Are we good? We wrapping up?
To Lovemore and the rest of you, there's no other bookings post this, so you can go on all afternoon if you want to.
I'm sure everyone is busy. So just a question. So Lovemore, currently I'm studying law at Western Sydney University. So
that's where I got my degree.
Oh, great. Seems like I'm following footsteps. And any advice you might give? Obviously, I'm doing part-time because I'm working full-time and I'm doing the evening classes. Any advice you will give it to a student to kind of, I don't know, could be a way to study or things that we found it quite helpful?
Look, my advice to you is study hard. And I often tell people often say, oh, but it's hard. I've got a job, I've got children, I've got a family, I gotta do this, and I always tell people, look, when I was studying, I was single-handedly, raising 3 kids, okay? And I had a full-time boxing career, which means, which meant I had to train put in at least 6 hours of training each day. So between that and raising my kids and studying, it can be done. It's just a matter of, you gotta, learn to manage your time, set a timetable, sacrifice. Sometimes, you gotta sacrifice. For example, when you're supposed to go to your party, if you could sacrifice that party and just study. But one other thing I would advise you is, if you're really, really looking at practicing in the future, and I don't know what areas of law you're looking at, but for example, if you're looking at practicing family law or criminal law in the future, one thing I would suggest you do is, you start going to court, just attend court, just sit in the back, watch, because some of the things you would know by now. Mostly when it comes to studies, it's more theoretical. But you need to get to the courtroom and see what happens in the courtroom, because most of the things they don't teach you at uni, you learn on your feet. So it would be very helpful for you to just go to the court, sit in the back, watch what's going on, watch how other lawyers address the court, and then it will be very, very useful. When I was studying, like I said, I was still boxing at the time, I would travel overseas. One of the things that I used to do in between training and resting, I would finish training and then I would just go to any court. It doesn't matter where I was. Even in Mexico, where I didn't understand Spanish, I still go into the courtroom and just sit in the back and watch what's going on. So if you are intending to, to practice in those areas of law where you have to, look, there are some lawyers that work from the office, but if you're going to be a lawyer that's going to go to court, you need to go to court now. Start going to court now. Sit in the back, just watch, and don't hesitate to, approach lawyers and ask. If you don't understand anything, ask them. Go speak to the prosecutor, speak to any defense lawyer there. If there's something you didn't understand, ask them. It will assist you in many ways.
Thank you.
That's a really good one. Just lastly, is the course online now currently?
Sorry?
The courses are running online now on Zoom, are they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that available to the public or how does it work?
Sorry, I think you confused me. Which course? I thought you said you were talking about your university studies.
Yeah, sorry.
Courts.
Courts.
Oh, courts. Oh,
Yeah.
courts. Yeah, look, we're pretty much, most matters we attend by video link or by audio link. And what's happening at the moment, they just produce this new memo, magistrate memo, where, for example, matters like some sentencing matters are still proceeding by video link, but most hearings or trials are getting adjourned. For example, if you have a trial where you gotta have a jury, because of these restrictions, they are just adjourning them to later days. But some matters are continuing, like mentions are going ahead. The family court matters are going ahead, because we are even having, final hearings and, interim hearings. We haven't run them through, video link or, audio. So the family court is still running every day.
So how do you get access of that link? Is that open? Is that available to the public? So to attend online?
Oh yeah, now that's a bit difficult at the moment, because what they do is they only send the link to the parties in the marriage. Yeah, it will be a bit difficult for you to attend, but if you want, if you send me an email, go to my website, you'll find my email. Send me an email. What I could do is, when I have some matters running, I could send you a link where you could just log on. As long as you put your phone or whatever you're using, put it on mute and just sit back and listen. You'll be able to still watch. But I was talking more about, once the lockdown is over, you can just go into courts and watch. But if you want to watch now, send me an email. I'll be able to assist you with that.
Thank you. Akano?
Do that right away.
Akano Amuda, are you there? So
Yes,
I think you should share something from a youth perspective.
Look, as a young, I will be turning 20 this year. So I would still consider myself young because I'm still 19.
I can remember when I was 20.
He's a poetry guy.
What did you say? Yeah.
I do the poems, nice poems.
Thank you. I think to hear stories like yours, of triumph and
he's been having difficulties.
And in spite of that, they were still able to make something of themselves. From a young person like myself, I'm also studying law. I don't know. It's just so incredible. Like I look at you and I say, okay, that's an African person, and I am African, and he's able to do this, and I can also do what he's done, or I can also aspire to make something of myself like you've made something of yourself. So I think look, as a young person, it's an inspiring thing, just knowing you're a human being and you came out of these circumstances, and that just means that it's possible for everyone else. And I don't know, it just gives that glimmer of hope. Just to hear that story coming from an African person. And so thank you for that. And look, and certainly it serves as some sort of as a big inspiration for young folks. I can certainly say with my story, anytime I go to a school or with children, with younger children, and I tell the story, although I don't really have much to my life, but anytime I share my story, they go, okay, wow, okay, you're a human, you've done this, and therefore, they can aspire to almost do the same. And I think it's exactly the same thing that's happening right now. And so thank you. And I think that, you're an inspiration.
Thank you for that. I'm pleased to hear that. What I would like to see from you one day, I want to see you do better than me. Okay, and then 10 years from now or 20 years from now, I wanna meet up with you and see, you've actually done a lot better than me. That will make me so happy.
Only I don't think I can be a world champion, but I don't think so.
Look, there's other ways. You don't really have to be a world champion boxer, but I'm sure you can do something else, that way, look, I always, people often ask me, what do I think is my biggest achievement? Was it winning world titles? Was it becoming a lawyer? Was it, educating myself? Was it, being inducted into the Australian Boxing Hall of Fame? And I always tell people, look, you can win as many world titles as you want, but someday, some young fighter that's more hungry and stronger than you is going to come along, it's going to beat you and take those world titles away from you. If they don't beat you, one day you're going to get old and you're going to retire and you're going to become a former world champion. Okay, so it gives you status, winning a world title and all that. But when it comes to education, you can have your 9, 10 degrees. No one is ever going to take that away from you. Those are going to be your degrees up until you die. Okay, so I always tell people, my biggest achievement was, education, being able to educate myself and be where I am today. I think that's the biggest ever achievement. Nothing beats knowledge. Knowledge is power. So having that education is the best thing ever. So you don't have to win world titles, to surpass what I've done. You could study. Okay.
Thank you so much.
And one day, next time when I talk to you, I want you to tell me you've got your PhD already.
I like education, but I don't like it that much to get a PhD.
So Akano, tell us a little bit about your poetry. Share with Lovemore.
Okay. So I got a
it's freezing.
No,
I lost him there.
It's I think we might end
sorry,
it.
I think I'm freezing.
Let's end it now.
Yeah, sorry, my internet was quite bad. My bad.
Edit it out.
Yeah, you were saying something about poetry. I didn't catch a thing.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. My internet was lagging. I think it's still lagging. So
that's all right.
I think
yes.
Okay.
You recently did a poem at the Parliament House. We're having an event there, and he had what you call standing or what?
An innovation.
Everyone, even still now, still sending email saying how is Akano Amuda? He was inspired by his poem. So tell us a little bit before we finish with the ideas of doing the poetry. How they come up?
Okay. Well, I look, most of my usually I often don't tell people this, but when I was younger, I had a case of severe stuttering. And and when I mean severe stuttering, I actually mean severe, where I couldn't really talk much to people. And it's a sort of stammer or a stuttering that denies you everything that makes a childhood worth having, which is human interactions and communications. But being unable to talk, that gave me the opportunity to sort of think and reflect more. And over the past few years, I've always sort of been into poetry, because it's a way for me to express myself and also for me to speak better. And when I was writing it, I was always influenced by histories and poets like the civil rights fighters during the 90s and during the 19th century and the 20th century. So yeah, I guess those ideas, I think when you've been reading something for a while, those ideas naturally come out. And yeah, so I was very happy to be able to, actually write something for the first time, that involves some sort of poetry. And, and in relation to the speaking aspect, for me, I think of this way, for most of my life, I have been a silent person, been unable to do something. So as soon as I get the opportunity to talk or to talk to people, it's everything. And, and I come out with an absolute passion when, nothing, to me, yeah. So yeah, I think that's just, yeah, that's it.
So there we go. That's talent. We're all gifted in different ways.
Exactly.
So you don't have to be a boxer. You could just be a poet that you are, but always aim to take it to the next level. Okay, and I'll tell you an example. When I started boxing, I just didn't want to be the local champion. No. I wanted to go win a world title, and when I won a world title, I didn't just want to win one. I wanted to win 2, 3 titles. Okay, so you've got a talent, as a poet. So take it to the next level, and you can.
I hope so. Thank you so much. That means a lot.
As Lovemore said, don't give up. So, look, I really want to thank you, Lovemore, and thank you, Karen, for organizing this incredible time. So, Lovemore, we keep in touch, and of course, I feel there's a potential ways of working together, with you. So in many areas, and we definitely keep in touch and see how we can move forward, and continue working with you. I think your story has already inspired us, and we want to use your story to inspire others to to move in a right direction.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. And like I said, I'm more than happy to assist any way I can. So feel free to contact me in the future. Definitely. Thank you, everybody.
Good luck with your political career. I went to South Africa. I went there for 9 months actually. I know Limpopo, so
that's where I come from.
It's a great country, and of course, having someone like you, I think it's great, perfect choice for the country, also for the whole continent, because South Africa actually it's the heart of Africa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank everyone for also joining us this afternoon, and we look forward to continue engaging together.